C++ video tutorial number 1, Hello World and Copyrights. Okay, so in the introduction video, I showed you to go and make a new project, console application, C++. I've just made a project on my desktop. I called it Hello World. And then just hit next and proceed through the menus. I've already got one set up here. These parts right here are comments. This double / is a single line comment, so all of that is just text to help us understand what we're looking at. All this color coded stuff is the actual code. As you can see on the left here, we have the main CPP file. If we look at the folder on the desktop, you can see that it has the project file for code blocks and the main CPP, which is really just a .txt renamed to CPP, and it's compiled by code blocks, well, GCC, through code blocks. So the first part of our code here is include Iostream, and the reason we have that is for this function called cout, sometimes called count. This is for printing text to the actual console. The next part is the standard template library namespace, and the purpose of that is so that we don't have to include the namespace. It's a very common practice. Not so important as integer main here. This is the main function. You can see these curly brackets are encapsulation for the code that belongs in the main function. Other than includes, defines, certain other types of programming. We won't get too in-depth with that. Basically, all the program does is print out some text to the console, hello world, and then returns 0 out of the main function. And this part right here is known as the main function's scope. Everything within this scope will be executed before it travels out of scope. And we're just going to go ahead and compile with this build button right here. As you can see, it logs in the console that we have 0 errors and 0 warnings, which is very good. So we're going to use the run button up at the top and run our application. And as you can see, it's a console, just like was suggested, and it says hello world. Process return 0. This is very good, and it shows you the execution time because this is a debug console application. Press any key to continue, which just simply closes the console application. And that basically wraps up the hello world and the structure of a basic program. I will mention one more thing. This part right here is an end line, and that's why we had hello world and a space. These right here are left shift. It literally means to put this after this. And it replaces basically this value with whatever you're left shifting it into. You could do it with, it's mathematical as well. You could shift 2 into 1 and it would become 2. But in this case right here, it doesn't actually replace the value, it just comes after it. But from cout to hello world, it's actually a function that receives that as a variable. or a parameter. This last little bit, this semicolon at the end, is the end of a particular function or string of functions, such as the whole count line here. As you can see, there's one after return 0 as well. Integers are a sort of function, which this is a defined function, that have to return a value in the form of an integer. Returning 0 brings you back to the operating system without any errors, provided you reach return 0. As far as copyrights, anything that you write in programming is already automatically copyrighted. You don't have to include the copyright and the symbol and the date. It's automatically copyrighted. Those included symbols are to assure and label that this is when it was created and prove it. You can also register copyrights if your work becomes valuable. You can register your copyrights. I think it's $15 in America. And that assures that the government has a record of your copyright. That about wraps up the C++ video tutorial number 1. I hope I'm getting through to people. Be working on variables and if statements. If this video helped you, please rate and subscribe. You can also visit my website for more tutorials at midnightrealmsonline.net. Links are in the description bar. Thank you.